This week on the O The Anthem podcast, we are celebrating because it is Bobby Bonilla Day. Also, Patrick Maholmes is celebrating because he got paid as well. We have no actual sports to talk about, so we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics, whether the Redskins should change their name. The answer is yes. In other news, Hamilton is on Disney+. Kanye West is running for president, apparently. QAnon candidates all over the place. We have COVID news. We have Trump news. And Columbus is going to tell us whether or not the harbor is swimmable and fishable. All that is coming up right now on the O The Anthem podcast. Hey, yo, Patrick, I need a loan. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 326 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for catching us on your podcatcher of choice. The easiest way to find that one is at anchor.fm/O The Anthem. It gives you the links to all the ones, so if you like to listen on Apple, we got you there. We got you on Google, we got you on Spotify, we got you on everywhere. So go check it out.
And if you want to catch us live, easiest way is to put /O The Anthem after wherever it is you're watching. YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, all of it. /O The Anthem. That's the easiest way to find us.
Yes, indeed.
So kicking off, as Corey said in the intro, and by the way, if you're not coming in for the intro, you're absolutely missing out. You will miss part of the conversation about how Corey was right 5 years ago.
Yes.
But if you missed out on that, not a lot of sports to talk about, but like weirdly sports news.
Yeah, it's sports adjacent things.
Sports adjacent. So let's cue up a little sports adjacent ball. Oh, that's not the one. There we go. Side note, we're taking, if you'd like to be our producer, let me know. You can come in. We're doing interviews. So I don't have to run the board and be on the podcast at the same time.
Well, we both are like splitting producing duties in a way here.
Yeah, I'd like to have somebody who sits there and doesn't talk. Friend of the show, Roberto, could do that, but the second half of that, not capable. So
we just cut to the producer cam every once in a while.
All the time. But yeah, so sports adjacent news. I feel like we talk about this every single year, and yet here we are again. When this podcast is going for its 20th year, we will still be talking about July 1st being Bobby Bonilla Day.
Always and forever, Bobby Bonilla Day. After Bobby Bonilla Day is over, we're going to have like Chris Davis Day because he has a ton of deferred money.
Yes. Yeah.
We're still dealing with Prince Fielder Day.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these that are down the pike, but Bobby Bonilla being the first of this type of contract, which is why it's so interesting to follow its legacy here. It's like the Kurt Flood of deferred money.
Yeah. So get everybody who doesn't understand, Corey, give them a little heads up. What is Bobby Bonilla Day?
Okay, so I believe it was his contract with the Mets that he signed in like 98 or so. It was for a healthy amount of money per year. I want to say it was something like, like 10 or 15 million at the time, which was a hefty sum to pay somebody
at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it was nowhere near Alex Rodriguez 25 million a year money, but it was like,
hang on a bit,
good major league starter money, good star money. Anywho, Bobby Bonilla played fine for those years, but he wasn't a star. But the big fancy thing that was different about his contract as opposed to others was that almost all of his money was deferred. So because he was willing to take it in smaller increments over time, it's kind of like the lottery thing. Like you could take if you won the Powerball.
See, now I have to correct you.
What?
Because the 98 contract wasn't.
Oh, wasn't.
4 years, money straight. Played okay, but not great. And then they renegotiated in 99 and they said, we'd love to get you a team that can help you get to the World Series. Here's how we do it.
That's when he went to the Marlins?
Huh?
Is that the Marlins trade?
The Mets are the ones. So the Mets said, we realize we put a lot of money in you and we can't build a team around you. If you let us defer a bunch of this money, you'll still get it. But then we can use the cap space to build a team with you.
Right.
That's what happened in 99.
So the point I was making is if you won Powerball, right,
Yeah.
and it's $100 million grand prize or whatever, if you take it as one lump sum, it's not $100 million.
No.
It's less than. But if you take it over, every month for the next 50 years, then you'll get closer to $100 million at the end of it.
Yeah. You still pay taxes, but no penalty for taking it all.
Right. There's no surcharge for taking a lump sum. And basically that's what happens here with Bobby Bonilla Day, where he just gets paid like $1.2 million every year on July 1st.
And so basically they signed a contract which was decent for a starter and then realized we've made a horrible mistake.
Yeah.
Can we defer a lot of this money? And he turned a decent contract into lifetime earnings for his children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
And $1.2 million. It's $1.19 million.
Yeah.
What are we going to fuss about a $0.01 million? Which is what, 10? Is that 10,000?
Yeah, $10,000.
$10,000.
$10,000. I just. What do you want me to throw it at you in disgust?
More than
I
a
haven't
minimum
sitting
wage.
around like that.
More than a minimum wage worker makes in the United States at 30 hours a week. By the way, that's more than their take home.
Right.
Is the rounding error we're discussing right now. So basically, he turned and
capitalism. Yay!
Yay! It's more money. So he not only gets the money he was owed, but then he gets more money with interest spread over the period of years.
Part of the thing is you can't renegotiate without giving more money.
Yeah.
So like you can't cut somebody's pay essentially. You can only raise it.
Yeah.
So the idea of raising it was probably over listen, I'm taking a risk here by taking it over, like 30, what if
the team doesn't exist with the Mets?
Yeah. What if my casino goes under and I need money right now? Like when am I supposed to do then? He made out in the end, and a lot of other players are making out nicely in the same sort of way.
And I was going to say at $1.19 million, if he deposits that in a regular interest-bearing savings account, he can live off just the interest month to month and leave the $1.19 million plus probably some to his kids.
If you're just thinking about it in terms of dividends that you get, unlike you call it $1 million in stock. If you're investing it wisely and you're getting high yield dividends from it, then you're probably clearing $2,000 or so a month in just the dividends.
A savings account at $1.19 million.
Well, no, but I'm saying like even if you put it in the stock market, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's earning money as it's
Gaining
growing.
value.
Yeah. But you're also getting dividends. So if you think about it in terms of like if you have $1 million and you're investing it well, then maybe you get $2,000 in dividends, the equivalent of $2,000 in dividends every month.
Okay, yeah.
So every quarterly you're getting $6,000 or something like that.
I think that is very conservative. Because if you got 1.19, you can give it to a guy who can turn that into.
Oh, there's tons of ways you can turn $1 million into a lot more money, and that's part of the problem. Is that as soon as people get to the point where they know how to mess with the way that taxes are done, then you end up keeping a lot more of your money, and the only people who complain about paying more taxes are the ones who don't know the tricks or don't know aren't going to pay for the CPA who will fix that for you.
Yeah, and then they buy an island, and then there's the Lolita Express, and it turns to. But you could be friends with Clinton, so there's that.
Well, there's that. So should we move that to the news?
I mean, we got. Let's cover the rest of the sports stuff, and then we'll jump up.
Let's keep it in sports for a little bit.
So speaking of getting paid,
keep your sexual predators out of my sports.
Speaking of getting paid, we got two other stories. Let's talk first about the guy who is getting paid this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Patrick Maholmes, and more so his agent who negotiated this thing.
I went into the wrong kind of law, by the way. Wrong kind of law.
So here's the tweet from Adam Schefter. Compensation update. Patrick Mahomes, 10-year extension is worth $450 million, sources tell ESPN. The injury guarantee is $140 million, and the contract does not contain language that ties its value to a percentage of the salary cap. Richest deal in sports history, which is, and it's true. It's more than Mike Trout made on his extension that he signed.
Yes.
And if you think about it in terms of, it's an extension at the end of the deal that he's currently on.
Which
so
is
he has
2
two
years
more
left.
years, and he's making somewhere in the area of like 20 to 25 million over these next 2 years. So you're talking about like another 50-ish million on top of the 450 mil that he's making. $500 million over the course of the next 12 years to play quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. No trade clause, no any of that. The question, I guess, we should be concerning ourselves with right now is how much are we going to have to pay Lamar when the time comes?
Yeah. No, he will not be playing for the Baltimore Ravens. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. It's like Manny. Like, let's enjoy him while we got him because he's going to go somewhere else to play. But the thing that people may not get
the Ravens
about,
usually keep their
the
stars.
QBs. That's true. Yeah. But the thing,
but also, one other thing, just Ravens related, real quick. Everyone made fun of Joe Flacco's $25 million a year contract, and now I don't think it's looking so bad. I mean, he's essentially half of Maholmes. That sounds about right. I mean, he was a Super Bowl MVP. Like,
I don't know.
If he had Tyreek Hill and he had Kelsey and everybody else, he would be a much different player, I think. So
we'll agree to disagree.
I'm just saying, right now you could probably get him for like league minimum, maybe $1 million or so a year. So I'm just saying, is he 1/50th Patrick Mahomes? Is that a reasonable?
Yes. Yeah. It's overpaying. I think that's overpaying for the skill level. But one thing you read in that tweet that I don't want people to miss is the injury guarantee.
Yes,
is 140 over 10 on top of what is now basically the 50 they already owe him. But let's say it's only a portion of that because it's probably not all 50. He's looking at the area of 160 to 170 if the first game of the NFL season this year, he steps out on the field, missteps, tears his Achilles, and can never play football again.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are into him for $150 million no matter what.
Well, think about it this way. Just for the extension part of that, that's $14 million a year to be injured. Just in case, if you were to be injured, it would be $14 million a year. Yeah. I obviously don't want anything bad to happen to Patrick Mahomes because I think he's a transcendent talent, and I really enjoy watching him play, and I'm happy for him for getting such a big deal because you should get what you're worth. And
he's worth,
league.
I would say, if there's somebody who's worth it, other than Lamar, probably him.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what else there's much to say except there's not going to be many people else on the Chiefs. I mean,
I wonder if he can do a Statue of Liberty play to himself. Do you think he could throw it downfield and then run down and catch it?
It'd be like the old Haas Radburn game where they play with 8.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that I think is interesting about this whole thing is how it was negotiated in this era of COVID. Just because we don't know what NFL finances are going to look like this season. Like, there might be a lot of players who are being asked to take a percentage of their pay because we're only going to play a percentage of the league. We don't know. We have nothing. We have no idea what's going to come up. The
I will bet you
players' CBA is already signed. So
Mahomes is going to get his full paycheck this year. That's in this deal now. Yeah, but everybody else.
But I mean, like it's kind of risky for the Chiefs too, don't you think? Like you're investing all this money in somebody who, you know, if we're going off the worst expectations of COVID, like they're saying, like there might be 5 years before either herd immunity is gained or a true vaccine is available. Like on the bad side of the spectrum, so you know, 5 of the 10 years that you have or 12 years you have Mahomes. Just burnt. Like,
and by the way, you got to pay him. So if he gets COVID and can't play for a month or 2, his paycheck goes in just the same. It doesn't matter.
Now, the only thing I would say is the constant reminder of NFL contracts, which is the only money you're guaranteed is the money you're guaranteed.
Yes.
This contract is $450 million, maybe.
Yeah.
If Mahomes is an MVP every single year for the next 12 years, or at least like reasonably considered in the race or something like that, then he'll make this money. But if at some point he isn't as valuable to the franchise anymore, they'll cut him. They'll take a huge cap hit for 1 year, and they'll rebuild, and they'll find somebody new, and they'll move on. And, you know, Mahomes will become a, you know, Raider in 5 years or whatever it is. But, like, you got to – It's really, really fascinating how I'd love to read the long lead story about how this deal was negotiated and like how it worked out and stuff like that, because I bet you there's a lot of fascinating things in this one.
So another part of this, he's 23, right? 23?
Thought 24, but somewhere,
24?
yeah.
So he's guaranteed to play, essentially, until he's 36, 35, 36 years old. And then if he's Joe Flacco and wants to keep playing, you've basically made your lifetime worth of money, and you can go and say, you could pull a Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the Bucs. They've got nobody. They've got
I'm
nothing.
going to prove you I can do it without the Chiefs.
I'm going to prove I can do it without the head coach who is saying that he's the most important part. And,
right.
I've got all these weapons. Great. I'm going to choose to go somewhere where I don't have that for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Tampa Bay, or whatever team it is in 12 years.
Right.
But just like, listen, you screwed yourself up.
Hey, London.
You screwed yourself up 8 years ago, and now you got no cap space because you got all these players who you owe money to or whatever. I'll come and I'll play for nothing. Give me 100% of my jersey sales. That's all I really want. I own my merch.
League minimum. I'm fine.
Yeah, because you've made $500 million in 12 years. And then you also get the thing of saying, I took a team from nothing and I made them a team. Or you have a halfway decent season and then you retire and go buy a goddamn island.
At this point, he can buy Kansas City, I think.
You know what? He could buy Detroit. I know for sure that the bid on Detroit's bankruptcy is less than $500 million.
Yeah.
So...
See if they'll work out a payment plan.
It's a non-cash offer. He's just like, I'm going to leverage the value of this contract against the city. Would you take that as a purchase? Yeah, sure, we'll take it. Go ahead.
This becomes Mahomesville.
Do you want to be mayor? Is it king? What are we going to call you? I'll go with Lord. You can call me Lord Maholmes from now on. So let's talk about the guy who's not getting paid this year in 2020.
Yeah. Just a quick thing. We're going to hear more about players like this, but David Price is one of the first to officially opt out of the 2020 season. He has decided that it is not worth it to play under these conditions. So my understanding of it is basically his deal just backs up a year. So it's like this is, we're just wiping the slate clean on this year, and you have the last year of your deal next year,
and
or whatever.
He was part of a trade. And it was the last year of his deal, and he's in his 30s.
Actually, I think he has a couple years left, but I mean, basically it just backs up a year.
Yeah. But let's say he's 2 years or even 3 years left. He is a guy in his early to mid 30s, I want to say.
Yeah.
Maybe even mid 30s, like 35, 36.
I think he's 34. But
yeah. So what I would say is that for him, it may be even a smart move, not just for health reasons, but to say, I got 2 years to prove to somebody that I'm worth major league money still. I don't want that to be a 60-game season where I have a cold streak of my 4 starts.
Yeah.
And I look terrible. And then I got to pick it up next year and have a really, really great season, or else I'm cut.
Yeah.
It's maybe smart for him to say, at 35, I'm going to have some off games. But if I can get 13 wins in a season, 12 wins in a season, that's better than most starters, right?
Especially on the Dodgers, who are expected to be good.
Yeah. And then you go into a stronger position to negotiate, which, by the way, I hate that we have to say this because we're really talking about contract negotiations and not the love of the game and what's the best thing for the game.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that, at a certain point, even though people are paid higher for the work that they do, it is based off of what, the league is making its money too. So, don't think that Patrick Mahomes is making less than, the owner of the Chiefs is for over the same period of time, So,
stay with me. What if we nationalized all of the sports leagues and then standardized pay so that the sports leagues truly do act as nonprofits? They make no money. Maximize pay to the players based on whatever the league brings in, but standardize it. So, wide receiver, quarterback makes the same as backup lineman.
Yeah.
And then we let them play. If you don't want to play, listen, you're still going to make millions of dollars. You're not going to make $450 million.
Yeah.
But you will make a lifetime's worth of money.
I think a league in Saudi Arabia that starts up to make to entice all these players to get paid like they were getting paid would be more of an attractive offer. That will 100% happen if you try to nationalize. You would basically just kill sports in America.
Stay with me. Drones. We got a lot of them, and we know they work really well in the areas of Yemen, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. So, first game's played, we just drone strike it, and then maybe people don't want to go play over there anymore. We do a little negative reinforcement.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I like that you're thinking outside of the box, but unfortunately,
listen, we drone struck a wedding where there wasn't even any terrorists at it. We can't drone strike a game just to send a message.
Clearly, we can.
Oh,
but
okay, all right. I thought you were.
I don't
saying
think we should.
Oh.
That's where I'm drawing the line.
Fair
I don't
enough.
think
Listen,
if it were up to me, we wouldn't drone strike anybody. But
that's a strong position to take. All right, we were looking for change. We got change.
Listen,
all right?
there's heads of state who need to fall. I don't know what.
All right. Well, and finally, now that we've gone through everything else, we'll go to the actual first topic of the day, the first main topic of the day, the Washington Football Club.
The professional Washington Football Club.
Professional.
So, the Washington Redskins, a long-time subject of conversation on this podcast. When I was looking for Kanye thing, I also found us talking about that in episode 73.
Good grief.
So, it's
been doing this a long time.
It's
folks.
been brought up. Basically, I like the little graphic there too. The fervor over racist elements of society has reached professional sports now. So FedEx, the main sponsor for the Washington Redskins, has put in a formal request that the Redskins change their name. And then there was some sort of press statement that the Redskins put out, like, we'll think about it. But FedEx seemed to be very like, no, you'll look at it.
You'll look into it.
And then there's been some talk that the NFL is also like, yeah, be sure you're looking at it. And Dan Snyder is like, listen, I have a valuable asset here. I ain't giving it up for nothing. Like, what are we gonna do? He's trying to Blagojevich the whole situation here a little bit, trying to get a little take on his way.
Didn't work out well for Blagojevich. I'm just gonna say. And Donald
won the first case.
Donald, what's his name? Clippers owner.
Sterling.
Yeah. Set a bit of a precedent, Snyder. Maybe don't push. I'm just saying.
He also made $2 billion, though, on his way out. So
True.
Yeah.
True. But
to be fair, $1 billion because his wife took half. But still made $1 billion.
And Snyder is the main owner, but not even the major stakeholder.
Well, I mean, he's the majority owner, but I think there are other people in the ownership group.
Yeah, I don't think he even owns 50%, though. He's like the major stakeholder, but it's less. He's the biggest one stakeholder.
Possibly, yeah. I don't remember exactly how it works, but
consortium of like 40 people. I think.
Dan Snyder, for as long as he's owned this team, and way beyond when he owned the team, because the Redskins have been a thing since the beginning of the league, essentially. So. The line has always been, we really care about honoring Native American traditions and heritage, which is why we do this. It's to honor them. Yeah, Braves on the warpath, fight for all DC, the whole thing.
Hail!
I'm so sick of that. The song being gone is going to be my favorite part.
Yeah.
But of course, the first couple games of like the Washington Generals or whatever it is, it's just going to be people going like, "Hail to the Redskins!" And like
somebody playing it from the parking lot on giant speakers. So I wanted to do this too. So, and by the way, Snyder has been pushed by Native American groups, by basically every civil rights group to change it. Nothing. FedEx, though.
Also, remember, Dan Snyder is just an awful human being.
Terrible.
You can find lists of his awfulness everywhere on the internet.
Yes.
And my favorite being favorite awful thing that he did. There was like an 84-year-old woman who was a season ticket holder and had these tickets for 20-something years. And during the financial collapse, she was able to afford like her house based off of like retirement and stuff like that, but she just couldn't afford the tickets anymore. And she was just like, listen, I signed a deal saying that I'd have these tickets for 4 years, but I'm not going to be able to have them for 4 years. So I'd like to politely get out now because my life has been ruined by the financial collapse. And Dan Snyder's like, no, sue her. I want all that money. So there was that. And a lot of other incidents where Dan Snyder was like just thinking so wallet heavy in this situation.
Move the team to Maryland out of DC.
Right. Out of RFK.
Yep.
So he could build his own little like parking lot fortress that nobody can get into unless you pay the $50 for parking.
Right.
So.
In the middle of nowhere where there's nothing else. So
Landover, Maryland, which is basically just land over Maryland.
but there is a metro stop nowhere near the stadium. Absolutely nowhere near it.
There's a metro stop conveniently located a $75 Uber ride away.
You want to pay $50 for parking? You want to pay $50 each way for an Uber ride? You pick, brother. All right.
And in the same vein, the Cleveland Indians are getting the same sort of attention for their team name. And I would say that the Indians, at the very least, have been trying to move away from Chief Wahoo and
they don't use Chief Wahoo anymore.
more racist leaning logos of their past and stuff like that. Their logo now is just the Cleveland C, has been for a couple years now. I feel like they might come to some sort of solution before the Redskins will. Though I maintain that neither one of these teams are going to do it unless it doesn't make sense for them financially anymore not to.
Right. I was going to say, FedEx makes all the complaints all these years didn't matter. FedEx, money is finally going to make them come to the table.
So, and specifically for Snyder and DC, you have a perfect example of what this is in your same town.
Yep.
Because in the early 2000s, the Washington Bullets changed their name to the Washington Wizards.
Which
there
sucks.
was not a ton of... We were in the area at the time. There was not a ton of outrage about the name Bullets.
No.
There was a couple groups who had a little bit of a voice who were saying it's inappropriate to have something called Bullets in a city where so many people die.
Especially people of color, mostly
mostly by bullets.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem like it represented the speediness of the team
anymore
when they had named them the Bullets.
Yes.
So they changed
They were
the
the
name.
Baltimore Bullets first, though. By the way.
Yeah, and then they moved to DC and became
maybe less appropriate in Baltimore.
Became the Capitol Bullets, and then the Washington Bullets,
Yes.
and then finally the Washington Wizards. But the process of changing from the Bullets to the Wizards cost the Wizards a ton of money.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of money. Because a lot of fans, number one, people didn't like the name Wizards. So I don't think people immediately got on board with it.
Bad choice.
But they, at the same time, people were like, well, why am I going to buy fucking Wizards gear? I'll just wear my Bullets jersey.
Yeah.
It's so much better than the Wizards jersey anyway. People still call them the Bullets, as a nod to the fact that they don't respect this new version of the basketball franchise.
Yep.
I feel like both the Indians and the Redskins are feeling that if they can just weather the storm for a little bit and get through the racial awakening that is happening in this country, then maybe they can just keep their name and it won't cost them that much money, because they'll lose hundreds of millions if they do change it.
Yeah.
Unless you change it to just the best, unless you have a perfect rollout of
and
new identity and logo and uniforms and everything like that just drive everyone.
I was gonna say, so
But
Indians is bad. It's not the nomenclature we would prefer.
Right.
Because obviously Native Americans is the preferred term. Redskins, however, is a dictionary-defined racial slur.
Right.
And that's why it's honestly, ironically, I think Cleveland would be suitable to change it before Snyder would give and change the name of the
Here's
team.
all the evidence you need that this is 100% a financial decision. A couple years ago, the Redskins lost the trademark to Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
Because it was a racist term. And that's how the decision came to, because you can't have a product that is racist or sexist in nature.
Which I think we did talk about on the podcast as well.
Yes. When that happened. But basically, I could sell Washington Redskin t-shirts if I wanted to, because they can't sue me over it.
With the logo.
Yeah.
And everything.
And the fact that they can't even make actionable make cases against people who are stealing their intellectual property. Mm-hmm. It's not worth changing the name. That's how much this name is worth to Dan Snyder. So I really think at some point he's just going to be like, somebody write me a check. Somebody write me a check for $150 million and I'll change the name of the team tomorrow. Yeah. Just give me money. I'm not going to just give it up. So what do you want?
Patrick Maholmes, I don't know if you're listening. I hear you just got paid. Maybe
listen, just give up a little bit of it.
Toss some shekels and see what happens.
They're going to be the DC United.
I wanted to ask you though, what?
Imagine they changed their name to the Bullets. All right, new football team, Washington Bullets. Fuck you guys.
I was going to ask you, what name. Have you heard any that are floating around? And if you have, which one would you or are you leaning at?
I mean, like, I've heard a couple for the Indians. There was a Cleveland Spiders team, so that sort of comes up top. There were various other franchises that were like the Cleveland Blues, and maybe something about like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so like the Cleveland Rockers or something would be nice. All of those I think work in some way or another. And honestly, you could keep the same red and blue color scheme and the C and everything, like just change Indians to Rockers on the front, and but again, it's there's a value to the brand somehow. So this is the part that Dan Snyder can't go out there and just be like, I'm losing money on this, because nobody gives a shit that his racist team is racist. That's his fault. He could have changed this before now. But it's a weird situation we're in right now. At what point is the financial breaking point? And FedEx leaning on the Redskins might be the thing that.
What about Washington, though? Have you heard any good names? Because you said Generals earlier, which was a previous Washington franchise.
Well, so that's the team that the Harlem Globetrotters beat up on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And interestingly, the Globetrotters said, "We'll give it to you for free if you change the names of the Generals." Mostly because they realized the brilliant PR of being able to say they could have this loser team's name.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's lots of. Red Tails was something that came up in reference to the Red Tail Plains.
Yeah, which I've seen on Facebook, so take it with a grain of salt. People are hating that more than I think that they would hate anything else, because they see it as pandering to the black community. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you're going to give up Redskins, but we'll make us the Red Tails, and now we're pandering to the black community. These are the same people that don't care that they're the Redskins, though. Yeah. So,
that will die in Redskin colors. Yes. I'm sure DC at some point will come up with some sort of stupid quasi-government related
Senators,
Washington Federals or whatever.
Federals? Federals and Senators were both teams.
Nationals and Senators.
Wasn't the Federals there was a
USFL team. I don't remember what they were. I don't think it was the Federals, but well, I mean the Baltimore Star, but I think they were the Washington Stars before that. Maybe.
Okay, so Stars, but Dallas now is the Stars.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can come up with something. It wouldn't be hard for DC to come up with.
What is the new other franchise? XFL. Had the DC Defenders, which I actually dug as a logo and the whole way they did the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem up to NFL quality.
Oh, yeah, no, but for XFL, it was good.
One of the questions I wonder is, like, if they decide, okay, we're going to change the name. Like, if just next week they're just like, all right, we can't take it anymore. We're going to change the name. We don't know what it is yet. We'll reveal it next season. But, we're just going to be the Washington Professional Football Club for now. Do they just go out in uniforms without, like, the logo helmet and like the spears on
keep the colors,
but just keep everything else about the uniform and just march out there? Like, I mean, it would be interesting at the very least.
I know that there are some people in DC who will not use the word in their press. They say the Washington Football Club or the local football team. They will not use the name.
I mean, it's the problem with the racist team name is that, like, at a certain point, none of them are so racist that they can't be said openly. Like, it's not looked upon fondly, but it's not like a Redskins, while the worst of them all by far, is not the type of thing that like. Did you ever see a Bomani Jones T-shirt, the Cleveland Caucasians?
Yes, yeah, no, I love it. Yeah,
it never really. There was the other version of that one too, the black version of that one too, which was popular as well. But like that clearly would just be like, if you can't even say it on TV, then it can't be a team name, Like,
well, what comedian did that?
And
joke?
At what point did we allow Redskins to be said on TV because it's the name of the team and you have to sort of say it? And what point are we, like?
Whatever comedian did that joke first, it's just like, whatever and the N-word. Well, when you can't say one of them, that's the worst word. I don't know what you want to do. Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly a spectrum, but it's terrible. It needs to go.
Yes.
So that's all I have on that.
So we'll be following that as it kind of grows and continues. But for now, that's wow. Look at us, only 40 minutes today. That's all for Sports Ball. Are you?
So, yeah.
Okay,
so
good.
We're a little under. We can make up the pace.
Okay, good. So this next topic I just wanted to talk about because both Corey and I saw it.
Yeah.
And we had been talking about it for years. Sorry. We're talking about Hamilton.
Yeah.
The play Hamilton, which Corey and I have both talked about probably for years on the podcast about wanting to see. It was coming to LA, and I actually was in the lottery to get tickets. And then when I didn't get anything in the lottery, I had said, you know what? I'm going to pay the $220 per seat to sit very far away from the stage to see it. And it started its run on March 22nd, which means we didn't get Hamilton in LA. But funny enough, we both got to see Hamilton anyway, because now it's available on Disney+.
Yeah, and a fantastic show, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I wish I could have seen it at the time. I think that's the waiting for it didn't make it, like you said, like the high expectations just could never be met. And while I admit its brilliance, and while I would like to say that if I was in the Richard Rodgers Theater that I would be like crazy about it, like seeing it live, it certainly lacked something that the live theater experience doesn't provide.
You're not a fan of theater on film anyway.
No, I'd rather be there and like sort of live in the moment. To me, it's like the difference between watching sports on TV and watching it live. Like maybe you don't get all the best angles when you're watching it live, but you have the experience of being there with everybody else and like being able to say like, oh man, the crowd was murmuring before the pitch, like you don't get that if you're watching it on TV.
Yeah. Well, and I think my problem is I got 4 or 5 years now of the rubes and boobs telling me how fantastic this show was. And I realized after watching it, it's a good show. And I probably would have enjoyed it live. But then I was hearing the opinions of people who this is the only thing they have ever seen in live theater.
The only play ever. Yeah.
And I compare it to Les Mis, which I've seen probably 19 times, not including the movies, but like live theater, which other than Mr. Rogers might be the only other thing that makes me cry. Like empty chairs at empty tables with the right guy singing that song gets me. And Eddie Redmayne plays the guy in the live action, not theater, but like
the movie
version of it where it's actually a movie. And I got to hold it back every time. He just kills me. And I didn't get that. There was moments that were really good, but I think it was just because I was waiting for that extremely amazing thing. And it was so good, but I didn't get anything over the top.
I mean, to me, I guess the divide is that they're always going to be playing to the audience first.
Yeah.
Even when they're recording it for Disney Plus later. Like, it was always going to be directed at the audience. And there were a couple times where there was like a camera on stage for like a close-up moment, but none of them felt very like, I'm just talking to the camera. It's just like, I'm talking to everybody, and you're just in my face.
Also, we both spent several minutes of the second act trying to figure out if we were super racist, and we confused a black actor and a Puerto Rican actor for a different black actor and Puerto Rican actor before realizing, nope, dual roles. Okay, yes, they're playing 2 different roles. And I've already forgotten the actor's name.
Daveed Diggs?
What's that?
Daveed Diggs?
Daveed Diggs, yes. Yeah. Who played Lafayette in the first act and Jefferson in the second act. And
because
we watched it separately.
I think the problem is anytime we see Daveed Diggs, he sort of has the Thomas Jefferson energy about him naturally. Yeah. Like, so there was more of an acting role for Lafayette. So, like, when I first saw him, I was just like, all right. So, like, Rachel was like, who are the most important people here? And I'm like, Lin-Manuel, Daveed Diggs, Leslie Odom, like, like pointing him out. And then I pointed out Daveed Diggs at the beginning, and I'm just like, yeah, that's him because the hair, and I recognize his face.
Know who he is. And I know he's in this. So
and I know he's in it. So that's got to be him. And then all of a sudden, second half comes out, and Jefferson comes out, and it's clearly Daveed Diggs.
Yes.
And I'm just like, did I get it wrong? Was there like a blind spot in me that like, like they do the thing with the eyewitnesses.
Oh yeah.
White people like eyewitnessing black suspects and stuff like that.
Any
and
cross-racial identification is terrible.
Because they did the same thing with like Asians trying to recognize white people or something like that. Yep. And it was like, it's all over the place.
What is the podcast? Damn it. Not Serial, but the other one that did
Undisclosed?
Undisclosed.
Yeah.
Spent like a special mini season on identifications and why you should never trust anybody's ID. But just because the only thing you could really do is like, I would ID Corey at the scene of a crime. That's about the only reliable ID I could give somebody because it has to be you have to know them that well in order to ID them. But anyway,
that's why I like the Dave Chappelle bit about R. Kelly, which has not aged well, but it's just like I want his grandmother there to identify him.
He's got 2 forms of government ID,
and he kneel there taking notes.
But yeah, so Hamilton, back to Hamilton, which again it was really good. And the thing is, if this is what it takes people to get into live theater, I'm all for it.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm criticizing Hamilton because obviously it's great and stuff like that, but I would have liked to. It sort of felt like Broadway rap, which is like I feel like the right place to be as far as this for it to be the most successful version of the show you can do.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if it was a little bit more on the rap side than the Broadway side, but to each his own. I just sort of felt like
gotta get the white folks.
The lyrics were so good and the music was so good, and I just wanted I would have liked them to lean into it just a little bit more, but that's just my personal preference.
And I understand.
Also, more King George. I would have honestly, if the whole show was just King George, I would have enjoyed it. Because it was so good.
Listen, Lynn, if you want to do a King George version of this, where it's his point of view during a whole acts of Hamilton, I'll take it. Find that guy, just give him the stage. One-man show.
One other quick point. Rachel points out at one point, King George is like, loudly singing, proclaiming, doing his thing. And he spits up. Yeah. And like, it's sort of like, narrowly hits Lin-Manuel's face or something like that. Like it just avoids. And she's just like, oh my God, COVID. And I'm just like, live theater is you literally standing there getting spit on and acting like not getting spit on.
100%. Having done live theater for a long time, there's a lot of getting spit on. That's
because the projecting to the back of the room involves a lot of like projecting your everything that's in your mouth out.
Yep.
So if you've never had the privilege of being in a musical, then you're just getting spit on the whole time. So,
and I know HBO Max is going to re-release Gone with the Wind with like a little explainer at the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like they should do that for Hamilton because, much to my chagrin, Roxy got 2/3 of the way through it and then commented to me, wow, things were a lot more diverse back then than I thought. And then I had to be like, okay, wait. So just so we're clear, these are all white guys in real life. Everybody's white. Hamilton was Bahamian, but he was British Bahamian. That's not even close to being anything. All white. Everybody white.
Yeah.
And there's the 3 sisters. By the way, 3 sisters, different races, not a giveaway.
Yeah.
Don't understand it. But anyway, maybe a little just thinking at the beginning, like, this is our take on historical events, which clearly Jefferson
have you seen the picture, by the way, of Jefferson's heir, basically a living descendant, direct descendant of Jefferson, and taking like in the same pose as Jefferson.
Oh no, I've seen like Sally Heming. It's like a Sally Heming's descendant, right?
No. So I'll show it to you later, but it's really good. It's like the presidential portrait, and then he poses in the same outfit in like the same way, and it's like eerie how similar it is.
Yeah, but let's be clear, Jefferson,
but white and black.
Yes, and
it's similar given the fact that they're of different races but look very much alike despite that.
Jefferson wrote the words, all men created equal while owning people.
Yes.
250 miles away.
Yes.
So, just so we're good. And I just felt like I hate pausing. And she'll do a lot of pausing because she's like, I want to know what you're explaining, and I can't do both. I never do that. I'm just like, let me sneak in a little quick 30-second explanation. I had to pause it because I'd be like,
if I'm watching something like live theater, I want to try and duplicate the experience as much as possible. So there was some pausing going on in the first half too, and then at a certain point I had to be like, we are in the Richard Rodgers Theater.
Let's just watch it.
We happen to have a couch. We have the best seats in the house.
Yeah.
But we're in the Richard Rodgers Theater. If you keep talking, security's going to escort you out.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, fine, whatever, shut up.
Then
fell asleep. So.
I was going to say, much like as if you were at the theater, she fell asleep by intermission and was out. So...
She's like, she watches the second half later, and she's just like, "Wait, Washington becomes president?"
I thought Obama was the first black president. I didn't know. But I highly encourage people to watch it. Like, enjoy live theater, and if this is what gets you into live theater, you will enjoy. Lynn does a fantastic job, but Rodgers and Hammerstein has a lot of really good live productions.
Gilbert and Sullivan,
and then once you're ready. then go see my favorite Les Mis because it is an experience.
Or Fiddler or anything by Shakespeare is great.
But Les Mis, which is the greatest play ever made.
Or Cats, which has a movie you can watch as well. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I can see burning hate in my eyes.
All right, so on to the news. I think,
Yes.
Corey, you're covering this one too, right?
Yeah.
Yep, here we are. Go ahead.
So, news dropped this weekend that Kanye West is deciding to run for president now in 2020, or so he says. He has no campaign organized through the Federal Election Committee or any people hired or any infrastructure to get on any ballots or even a party that he is running with. So
I'm Yeezy.
It's all up in the air right now. I would like to say Kanye seems to be doing this to get attention because he has been lavished with attention in his life. And once you, at a certain point, if you hear too much, you're a genius, then it just breaks that part of your brain, which allows you to have like normal human emotions. So, I don't really want to talk about it because I don't want to give it oxygen and energy, but you can't really avoid not talking about it at the same time. It seems pretty clear to me that he's just trying to like create fake rallies so that he can sell an album at some point. He must be working on an album. That's all I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's more about, the same Kardashian Jenner stuff that is all about getting to the front of headlines and stuff like that. But none of them would do it because
they have sex tapes and they don't want that to come out.
Not only that, it's there's just to even get on the ballot at this point is almost an impossible task, and to organize a national write-in campaign is, if you had the best campaign manager, it would be a uphill battle. If you had the best of everybody, it would be a tremendous uphill battle.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is it possible? So
is Kanye West his legal name too?
Yes.
Okay.
Kanye West is his legal name.
Okay, so that's good. That's helpful for him.
Yeah. I mean,
but I'm saying, like, if it was Thomas,
Jay-Z's got a
if it was Thomas Kanye West or something like that, then he has a real problem because then he's got to be like go to all these events and just be like, hey, remember, write Thomas West in the thing.
Or go to all the states.
It won't count. It won't count if you say Kanye. So please don't write Yeezy. Don't write anything like that.
Oh, you know what'd be easier? Change your name. Change your legal name to Kanye West.
I just write Jesus' name in there. Those are Republican votes. We count those as Republicans.
But here's what. So what we've heard of Yeezy in the last few years politically is statements like slavery was a choice,
right?
Meeting with Trump and thinking that he's a really great guy, rocking the MAGA hat pretty regularly,
right? The only time he's ever discussed like political like ideology, he said he was somewhere between Trump and Bernie, which is a pretty wide swath. But
to anyone in the know, yes, that would be a wide swath. Is there a chance that this is him doing a friend of his a favor by splitting the Democratic vote in a way that we tried to avoid by just backing Biden?
No, I think to me, it seems like he's trying to get a lot of people to talk about him this weekend, and he's not actually going to run. He's going to do the same thing Trump used to do in the 80s and early 90s, which is like thinking about running for president, and then there'd be 2.5 weeks of stories about it, like what would it be like, and then he's like, no, I decided not to. Because then he realized, like, after he said it out loud, he was just like, what would it take to run for president? It's just like, you don't even want to know. There's so much work that goes involved. He's like, not interested.
Yep. And then they give you a show on NBC when they're like, hey, he looks really good on TV, but let's give him a show.
Yeah. He seems to be important somehow, so let's...
My concern is the reason Trump is president now is because every time he said he was going to run before then, we didn't have social media. So it did die out. When mainstream media stopped covering it and he wasn't on TV, we were done.
Yeah.
Even with Fox News. Even with Fox News, they were just like, all right, let's get back to the real Republican, shall we?
Yeah.
Also, he was a Democrat.
He was also never super serious about, like, actually trying to run at any point.
Yeah.
So.
But 2016 was different because that bit of your brain that we were talking about with Kanye, Trump also has, where there were people on the internet saying, no, you're amazing. You're great. You should run. And it never stopped. And it just, was under the surface for a while in 2015 when everybody was already running. It was just bubbling. Yeah. And then He was like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And then there was a huge uproar and it never got the chance to die. Kanye has the same thing. And he's got a media machine behind him.
The problem is that this feels so much like the same Sunday service thing that he was doing, where he was going to be a religious figure, and people are coming out to fucking Palm Springs to experience his church service and stuff like that. That seemed like a plea for attention too that didn't really take off as much as he wanted it to, and now he's trying this one because maybe he can have events. If Trump can have rallies, then he can have rallies.
Sure.
Like, why can't he? And maybe he doesn't get the same problem for it if it's a political rally as opposed to a performance. Maybe that's the way you get around Staples Center rules or whatever.
Also,
but he's mentally ill.
That is the clear part.
I don't, and I'm not trying to diagnose him from the sideline or something like that, but clearly there's a mental imbalance that's going on right now where he is not able to regulate his emotions in a healthy or positive way. And I'm not trying to pick on him. I'm trying to say, I'd rather him get well and make music because that's the best version of Kanye. Yeah. You don't have to be president. People
this
think
is coming
that,
from a guy who doesn't like his music either.
Yeah, just do it. I don't, do what you want to be happy, but this is not, believe me, this is not the job you want. It's not what you think it is. And Trump should be evidence to anybody who is not qualified to do this that it is not as easy as just barking out orders. You need to actually know what you're doing and hire people who know what they're doing, and
should be.
Well, yeah,
probably won't be. But I did want to say one other thing, which is Elon Musk. We get it. Billionaire, agent of chaos. Your girlfriend / wife or whatever your relationship is quirky. Basically, a manic pixie dream girl. Essentially, Your mom is a villain from the Hunger Games. We get it. All right, enough. It wasn't the first comment, but of course, the most retweeted comment was Elon Musk, you have my full support.
Yeah.
Also, Kanye, just a word, Elon, worth a lot of money, cash on hand, not so much. Real invested in the companies, and every time he
especially
does something,
if he gets kicked out of Tesla at some point.
Yeah. His life is supplied by being the CEO of Tesla.
Yeah.
And if that ends, all he's got is stock. And the ironic thing is, the more decisions he seems to make as CEO of Tesla, which is his day job that he gets paid for, the stock seems to lose value. So, I don't know. Anyway, Elon, we get it. All right. We all.
I just miss the day where Elon was the quiet genius in the corner. Then
we thought he was the quiet genius.
No. I mean, much the same as we have this thing with Kanye, where he came up and he's just like, oh my God, this genius, and he didn't really put himself out there too much. He was on the back of tracks. He was a producer.
Yeah. Produced Jay's album and it was fantastic.
And, he eventually got in front of the mic a little bit and be able to show his personality. And, he showed the ability to be one of the greats and stuff like that. And genius get thrown out at him. And then all of a sudden people think that every opinion that he has needs to be something that he responds to.
We got to stop that.
And I mean, Elon is the same way, where it's just you're this genius. Why don't you tell us how to fix, irrigation? And he's just well, I've never fucking done anything about irrigation before, but I'll look into it. And then you're asking him,
wait,
how would you do government? And it's just wow, I mean, the most efficient way would be that, and, and then he starts talking about things that he doesn't understand. If we're keeping Elon Musk in the cage, just working on the things that he's good at,
yeah,
and allowing him to use his creativity to work on new and exciting projects like that. The Boring Company tunnel is really cool. SpaceX is really cool. Tesla's really cool. All this stuff seems like he's good at it. So let him work on this sort of thing, and not so much the being
everything
a political
else.
figure.
Yeah. And I was going to say, your first
being
example
a celebrity.
Your first example of irrigation where he's let me look into it. No, Elon Musk is off the top of my head, I have an absolute solution to all the irrigation problems of the world. And you're not enough fresh water in the world to power the system that you're progressing? And he's we could do it. We could absolutely do it. I refuse to believe that.
Just give me money and I'll show you we can do it.
Yeah. But it's enough, Elon. Yeah, by the way, true story.
Yeah.
Elon Musk's mother looks like she hasn't worked a day in her life because she owns an emerald mine. Because that's true. And Elon, with his whole picking himself up by his bootstrap story.
Yeah.
Dad owned an emerald mine. Literally paid his way through college by stealing emeralds from his dad's mine and then going to London and selling them and paying for his education. So
It's also
apartheid South Africa, by the way.
I always like to see the pictures of Jeff Bezos in the original Amazon office too, and they're just like,
Started from nothing.
Here's Bezos starting from nothing. It's like, motherfucker, he was like the highest ranking person at Bear Stearns for like a day. Like he was like the #1 seller at Bear Stearns for like a fucking decade.
A job he got from his parents
Yeah.
with an education that his parents paid for. And yes, he's sitting in a small office, which was part of a suite of offices paid for by his dad. Amazon was started with seed money from his father.
Yeah.
You know who else we make fun of?
And lost money forever.
For a long time. Funded by the dad. You know who else we make fun of who survived based on loans from their father? Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So Bezos, Trump, Musk, you're all the goddamn same. And what's that guy you really like? Gary Vee. Same goddamn thing. Dad built a business from nothing. Dad is a hero and inspirational. Gary Vee knows how to work YouTube. So screw all of you guys. I mean, Gary, if you want to come on the show, I'll have you. Elon.
I'm sure he has lots to say to you.
Any of you guys, we'll have you on. I'll let you speak.
I'll go to your place, Elon, and we can talk about this all. Just be like, why don't you just worry about EVs? Like, it seems like it's going well. Like, do we really need all the rest?
The best part of this
What's
is...
this child's name? I can't even pronounce it.
It's Kyle.
It's not Kyle.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but
A
yeah.
plus 12 is... Yeah. By the way, I'm going to be really happy to look back on this in like 25 years and be like, this is why nothing ever worked out. Because every time we might have gotten something, I said shit like, fuck you, Gary Vee.
Like his team goes through and scrubs all the episodes.
Yeah.
Never talk shit about me.
Yep. Anyway, so where are we at now that I've...
Greetings, Roberto. We miss you.
Oh, where is he?
At Facebook.
Oh, let me see if it popped up. Oh, it did. So let's go on over to the 2-shot here. Because again, if you are commenting anywhere that you're watching, we can bring you up right here. And we see comment from Roberto from Mexico. Welcome. Come back soon.
Yes.
And I got my list off. Here we go. Where are we? All right. Coronavirus news. That's where we're going next. Here we go.
Skip ahead to that.
Skipping ahead.
Real quick. I'm sorry. Maxwell. Getting arrested.
Yes.
We
Giselle?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
I watched that whole damn
I
documentary.
know, and I still, and you know what the worst part is? It's one of those names that I'm never going to be able to pronounce until I sit in a room and try and do it for like a half hour.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, God damn it. Now I'm doing it again.
Alexandria.
No, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. Like, that was a name that I heard it and it just sounded like word salad to me. And it's like the dyslexia in my brain couldn't figure out how to like get all those sounds together.
Yeah.
And I just literally had to sit there and say it a couple times until eventually I got it and then I moved on. Ghislaine Maxwell or what? I can't remember.
You've been working on your Spanish with Roberto, which obviously also helps as well. But yes, Giselle Maxwell.
She was arrested. Let's see if she survives for another week. I think what comes of this is going to be interesting, but when do we hear about that is the question, because she's pretty much dead to rights with the 2 counts of perjury.
Yeah.
No matter what. Yeah. Like in legal circles, they have a certain number of things they like to refer to as the kill shot. One of them is I get a loan from my parents to buy a house and I don't put on the paperwork that it's a loan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, or I say it's a gift and then it's really a loan, or it's a loan and it's really a gift, or whatever. If you lie on the paperwork, then that's enough to...
The loan and gift is the problem. Yes.
Yeah. That is 25 years or something like that for misappropriation of a financial document.
Yep.
It's the one that they'll hold off on people who have 5 kind of shaky charges, but they'll be able to get somebody with the...
Scarface? The real Scarface.
Yeah.
What was he arrested for? Bootlegging, prostitution...
And racketeering,
Oh, wait,
right?
no, not Scarface. Capone.
Yeah.
What was Capone
Oh,
arrested
tax.
for?
Tax evasion.
Taxes will always get you every time. But yeah, so they got the 2 perjury charges, which are basically like double barrel shotgun to the head. Now we have all this other
We literally
stuff.
have evidence of you lying. So what do you...
And apparently she is willing to discuss issues and is awaiting that.
Yeah.
And listen, the meme circle needed a influx of new blood. You know, the Epstein didn't hang himself. Memes were getting a little old. And now we're getting classics like Do you remember Dom Grady, the Dom Grady memes when when Tom Brady was suspended for a game?
Yeah.
Now we're getting a version of that where it's like new federal prison guard Hillary Clinton has been assigned. She's the top of the game. Yeah, okay. Because by the way, the Clintons kill people. Allegedly.
Yeah, according to all the QAnon people who are running for Congress. So.
Also, the fact that a lot of people die very mysteriously around them. QAnon aside, look into Whitewater. Very weird. Anyway, but so she's probably going to talk, and it's going to be interesting.
I mean, right now, I just feel like it's a lot of speculation. There's not really much to say. I wanted to acknowledge it. So
Prince Andrew announced the royal family put out a pronouncement about Prince Andrew being nervous about whatever she may say.
Was he sweating?
Well,
because he famously said he doesn't sweat.
Yes. Strangely, looked very sweaty.
One of the girls said he was sweating profusely, and it's like, I don't sweat. So
couldn't be me.
It couldn't be me. It was some other prince.
And in order for you guys to stay up to date on that news, I would recommend watching the 4-part documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of it, but there was a lot of stuff that I had no idea about.
I enjoyed that one focused mostly on the victims.
Yeah.
And only told the story in the way to get to the victim story, like to be able to tell it. So good job by them.
I agree.
And everything you need to know about where we are is explained in that one. So go check it out.
And maybe you can pronounce that woman's name correctly, because clearly we can.
I'll listen to it a couple more times, and I'll have it for next week.
So, of course, we couldn't leave without talking a little bit about coronavirus, because
it's
that's
everywhere
life now. Yeah. So we three stories I really want to go. I'm going to lightning round these three stories.
Yeah.
A little graph over here to the side of me. It is the United States, but it doesn't look like it. And I love this graph, and the reason I wanted to use it is because it makes every state the same size and just sets by color. So it kind of associates a color with how bad the cases are. There's some really bright red. There's some lighter red. There's some oranges. There's some light greens. Here's the story, essentially. 15 states are on the rise. California is one of those states. Surprisingly, the epicenter of coronavirus in the United States, which was New York, 9 new cases yesterday. They have really gotten a hold of it. And we talked about early in the podcast, which of these governors is going to come out kind of ahead in like, I'm going to eat a lot of shit, but is that going to mean that my state is better off? I think Cuomo is going to win that.
Yeah.
Newsom gave in to the calls of like, we need to open the economy. And now California has had 5 of the 5 worst days during the pandemic were during the last 8 days.
Yeah. And I really do think that it all comes down to people in LA and people elsewhere where these cases are surging just being selfish.
Yeah.
And honestly too, Maryland cases are down, not to 9 cases level.
No, but
certainly
trending downward.
Yeah. I think a couple days ago I saw like 300 new cases or something like that. But I also don't necessarily think that enough people are getting tested to necessarily show everything that's happening here. So it seems better in the Northeast than it is almost anywhere else in the country, other than, like South Dakota, where there's not really a lot of people to spread the virus. So I guess that makes sense.
And the governors have basically said, listen, I support your liberty, but we're shutting stuff down.
Yeah.
And Michigan tried that unsuccessfully. They're also trending upward. But those mid-plain states really just have been like, hey, 10 people who are in town don't get together.
Yeah.
And it's been relatively successful.
Right.
So,
well, I think you kind of move to a place like that so you can be left alone and not have to deal with people. So, it is what it is. But I think that people really need to just... If people could just start thinking about this in terms of like after 9/11, where like for a little while we all put our bullshit aside and we just sort of like embraced each other as Americans and fought through all the feelings that we were going through, and then eventually we became tremendously politically divided again.
Yeah,
worse than we were before. But for a period of time, maybe 3 months ish, it felt like we all needed to be in this together.
Yep.
And there's never been a feeling throughout the course of the whole coronavirus situation where I've ever felt like we're all in this together. It's always been warring factions of, I don't have to wear this mask because I have a fake doctor's note, or like
huge inconvenience to me. I don't want to do it.
I mean, it feels like, you know, and the other thing is like the looming disaster of people getting evicted out of their apartments who haven't been able to pay for rent.
Yep.
People who are trying desperately to get Congress to approve longer, more of the $600 a week of the
unemployment runs out at the end of this month. So even people who were barely getting by with that unemployment, now they may not be able to pay rent in August. So,
by the way, all the businesses who are complaining about their employees not wanting to come back because they're making more in unemployment, it's not that much money in unemployment.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say. It's not.
Yep.
It's not. I would hope that we would be able to pay at least this amount to everyone who works a normal 40-hour a week job, you know?
Yeah.
The lower end needs to come up dramatically.
I think I talked about that on the previous podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the first thing we should do when we're through this. Like, Heroes Act. Okay, all you guys went to work. Great. We're going to give you $18 an hour.
The other thing I don't understand, too, is like, you know, it feels like rich people feel like they need to get paid regardless of whether or not everyone else is.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, yes, I need to pay money to my landlord for the space that I occupy here at this property because they need to pay for the land that they bought, for the taxes that they pay, for all the things that go along with owning the property.
Sure. Yeah.
But at a certain point, wouldn't it just be easier to push off the responsibilities of paying for the land or the taxes for a period of time so that the building doesn't need to take rent because they're not paying their version of rent?
Yep.
And then whoever is at the top of the spectrum just collecting checks from, you know, all the properties that they own for a period of time just will not be getting that money. I feel like, you know, the baseball owners were going through the same thing where it's just like, well, why are we going to play if we don't make the ultimate, you know, the most money we possibly can? It's like, because idiot, just because you own a business doesn't mean it goes up every year without fail.
Do you remember 94? We almost didn't come back from that.
Yeah. Like,
let's play baseball this year.
Right. You know, it's.
Yeah. I got a solution for that. And I want you to hear me out.
Okay.
Guillotines.
I figured
landlords,
that was coming, yeah.
Guillotines. Put that math together, and I think we would be just fine. But I wanted to say, the California is rising rapidly, one of the 15 states going up, despite the fact that the largest testing spot in Southern California was closed for 4 days of those 8 days, that 5 of the days were the largest growth. And that's the spot that I shot the video of me going and getting tested. It was empty when I went there, but
that's where I went to get tested last Thursday.
And apparently the lines when you were there were insane.
It took about an hour.
Yeah.
An hour to do it.
I pulled directly in, got my test, took my test. I was in and out in like 10 minutes. So for me, it's like, what? You sat an hour?
Yeah.
But so it's worrisome because Southern California is the most densely populated, second maybe only to the Bay, depending on what you count. And the largest testing site was closed. And we still are having the largest positive test days.
Yeah.
By testing. So like the largest number of positive tests compared to the number of tests given.
I mean, percentage. To me, it just seems like nobody, you know, I have been doing everything I can to limit the number of people that I see. Today, somebody came to check fire extinguishers for the building.
Yeah.
Or fire, you know,
sprinklers
for the building. So there was one person that I interacted with. There was a delivery driver, and there was you. And so far, that's it today.
Yep.
And me and you have been around each other this whole time, basically, and we've both been testing negative. So we feel safe. But
I gotta go get another test though.
But I'm saying like two. You know, there's only 2 people who I don't know about like right now.
Yeah.
You know?
And by the way, one of those guys interacted with everyone in your building. Yay.
Yeah.
Good job.
With his mask like lightly pulled down his nose too.
Yeah.
When he walked in too, I hit him with the hand sanitizer. I'm just like, nope.
Don't touch anything first. Yeah. Well, and one other thing I wanted to talk about is just that Dr. Fauci, who has been, you know, our voice of reason during this entire thing, gave some great news this week. It seems the coronavirus has mutated, and now it is even more prolific than it was before. I don't see any indication that those who have had it are now under some different risk than they were of getting it, meaning that the virology is the same enough that your antibodies should be able to fight it off, because that would be horrible. If it mutated so that your viral antibodies do not pick it up, that means we've just wasted the entirety of everything we've done thus far.
Yeah.
And we got to start over again. Maybe we do it smarter this time, and hey, everybody lock up for 3 weeks. Don't leave home. Today, go buy food. Everybody go home for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
It's
we'll
a blizzard.
wipe this out.
Just stay in your house.
Stay in your house. We'll wipe this thing out. But no, so hopefully it's not going to be bad, but that's part of the blame for the rising numbers, is that it's even more prolific, this particular strain or mutation of it. So yay. That's
Good news.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of good news, although this might actually be good news.
I mean, if it's real, it just feels
yeah.
like a cock tease to me.
Well, first of all, I want you to understand, Corey, that Trump is the most well-informed person on earth.
So Kayleigh McEnany
Yes.
tells us.
By the way, special press briefing to come out and say the president is the most well-informed person on earth. Any questions? Just that was the whole point of the press briefing.
There have been questions at the White House press briefing of, does the president read? To which the press secretary, whoever it is at the time, goes like, the president reads.
Of course,
yes.
the president reads.
Nobody ever asked that question of any other president. Even W, who was accused of being a bumbling idiot, was never like outwardly said like, "Do you read? Could you actually read words?"
Yeah.
They're
Can
just like,
you? Can you read?
Can you? Or do you have the physical ability to read? Like, nobody asked him. But Trump, we question whether or not.
Well, so the 4th of July, he was at Mount Rushmore. And, of course, he gave a completely bipartisan, pro-American...
Nope.
Oh, yeah, no. But he slurred and stumbled his way through it in a way that was incomprehensible to me.
He is not good on a teleprompter.
No.
And
But Obama wasn't good at the beginning, but by this time he was good.
I don't get why that you wrote that speech down.
Oh, no,
like
we
that.
didn't.
No,
No.
not Trump. I'm saying somebody actually wrote the
Oh, yeah.
words that Stephen Miller wrote the words of that speech, like read it and was just like, "Yup, that's it.
He'll do well with this."
Put it on the teleprompter." Like at no point was it like, we're part of the greatest country in the world. We need to pull together and be better. And, this is our opportunity to be the country that we know we can be, and rah, rah, America or something. It's like cancel culture is ruining everything. And fucking, I'm going to send in National Guard to defend monuments and blah, blah, blah.
And let me tell you something I wouldn't do if I was writing for Trump. I would not have a transition between any two topics in the middle of a sentence. Because if he chooses to step away and for one of his interjections, it will sound nonsensical. Like when it sounded like he said Vietnam was fought in the sands of Arabia, because he stepped away to talk about the Vietnam War and came back and then the sentence was meant to be like, the way we fought in Vietnam and how we fought in Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
But his interjection made no sense because he didn't read the second half of the sentence before he talked.
Right.
And if it couldn't be any more American than, deriding half of America in front of a national monument. On the way in, there were Native American protesters protesting the use of their most holy place, which has been defaced with the founding fathers' faces on it. And just, they didn't want to have a political rally there, which is what it inevitably turned into. Now, would they have protested as much for a previous president? I don't know. Someone who you might think would just do a let's come together speech. Maybe not.
They've been pretty firm on this one for a while.
Yeah, don't go to the Black Hills.
What is it? The Sioux Indian, but it's something, the Lakota Sioux or whatever.
Lakota Sioux, yes. Yeah.
Lakota Sioux. They had sued the federal government when the land was taken from them. Yes. And then in one court ruling, it was supposed to be given back.
Yes.
And then the government...
No. We made a treaty to avoid a court decision that we gave it back to them.
It was before that they had the actual decision at some court level, and then the treaty came in after and superseded it.
Yes.
And then the government was going like, well, listen, we can't give you the land back because it's treaty, but we'll give you this money. And they sued because they wanted the land instead. Yes. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said you can have the money. And they were just like, fuck your money.
Yes.
I want the land. And they've been for lack of a better term, dying on that hill ever since for it. You know, like
they well should.
Yeah,
sure. Why not?
And I completely understand why you wouldn't want to have a political rally there. And
as much as Corey may not be a ardent Catholic anymore, you wouldn't want me to go, knock down the statue in the center of St. Peter's,
yeah.
and put up a Mark statue.
Right.
Just like, listen, it's like a really holy place, and not cool that you would bring your political leader here to my holy place. And then if I went in there and then ranted about some political issue that really was divisive, that would be even more insulting to the fact that this was your most holy place.
Can you believe we had a Catholic president?
Yes.
We let that happen. Not anymore under my watch.
The watchful eye of Karl Marx here at St. Peter's Basilica. No, St. Peter's Square?
Yeah.
Paul's Basilica, Peter Square? Or is it Peter's Basilica, Paul Square?
I don't remember. It's the Vatican. It's just, to me, it's all the Vatican.
Look at the ardent Catholic sitting across from me. But yeah, so nonetheless, they were met by Trump supporters who shouted, amongst other things, go back to where you came from.
Yeah.
And as a reminder, the Lakota Sioux are from the Black Hills of the Dakotas.
They were literally standing on the land that they would be going back to, hypothetically, if they were to go back to their land.
And they're being told that by the great-great-grandchildren of probably Irish immigrants, Scottish immigrants, Welsh immigrants, English immigrants, Norwegian, German.
Yeah, anytime during the Great Migration.
Any Europeans in some variety were standing there.
Eastern Europeans or...
Yes.
Yeah.
Standing on their land, telling them to go back where they came from, which, by the way, is the most American thing we could do on July 4th. Really, I think that is a perfect celebration of July 4th. Taking land and then telling you to go back where you came from.
And all the conversations we've been having, trying to find a more equitable way forward in the dealings of race that have been going on. The police have not become as much of an issue for the police reform has not become the issue that we all hoped it would be.
Yeah.
And the Lakota Sioux are dealing with whether or not the Cleveland Indians are going to be the Cleveland Spiders now. So, it feels like we're missing the target on a lot of these discussions. And
by the way, Breonna Taylor was killed 110 days ago, and her killers still walk free.
Yes.
And could go work for another police department. Despite the fact they may have been fired by that police department, they're free to go work for another police department. So, 110 days.
Yes. That is terrible.
That is longer than an NFL season.
Yes. Yeah. And today would be a great day to call the Attorney General and say, how about you do something about it?
Maybe we should, put these guys behind bars and charge them with something. That'd be great.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. The one story that Corey kind of alluded to earlier as well is that Trump, whispers from the Trump administration are that if his poll numbers don't improve, because nothing seems to be able to improve them. The Tulsa rally didn't really get them up. The 4th of July thing kind of backfired, and the poll numbers are listless at the bottom. That he may pull out of his reelection campaign in mid to late summer of the election year, which would be disastrous for everyone. He can't get off the ballot. So essentially you'd be voting for Mike Pence because he would get elected and then essentially step down, allowing Pence to take the presidency, I guess.
Yeah.
And or causing a constitutional crisis, which is exactly what we expected of him. And we talked about Kanye earlier, and it's like, this is exactly what I expect. It's I'm going to take my ball and go home rather than risk losing the game.
Again, it's something we talked about last week with, president being the person who gets the bad news. I just can't. Trump has no. He's been asked, why do you want to run for why do you want to be reelected? And he has no answer. He keeps talking more and more about I guess people don't like me, so I'm going to have to mosey on out of here. And
take my ball and go home.
Yeah. And the idea that the Trump fans out there and the deep recesses of the internet are going to be like, he was chased away by the deep state because he was too successful. We were winning too often.
Yeah.
And they just tried to bring him down with Russia and impeachment and blah, blah, blah. And never
that's
gave
what
him a
needs.
chance. Yeah.
He needs a Nixon Vietnam moment where he can be like, we won, so we left.
Yeah.
And it's like, woo, but really though, did you? But if he finds a way to turn this into this is a witch hunt, I could go run a successful business. I don't need this anymore. And look, I've done everything I said I was going to do.
I quit.
Yeah. And walk away. He absolutely will. But he needs to go out on his terms, and it's got to be a win.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to find,
because he's not going to be able to, like, the worst part is he could change his lot in life a lot if he just leaned into the fact that we're in the middle of the pandemic and there are there's simple steps that could be taken to help prevent the spread.
Wear a mask.
And if Trump literally went out, wore a mask, like, like fucking Newsom, like every time he has a press conference alerting to it, he's in some room, seemingly by himself, and he's walking in with the mask on, and then as soon as he gets in front of the microphone, he takes it off. And then if somebody else is talking, he puts it on while he's standing in front of the microphone. It, does he need to wear it in front of the microphone? Probably not. But like, it is showing people like, hey, I'm wearing the mask. I'm an important person and I'm wearing the mask.
I was sewn into this suit, but I'm wearing a mask. All right.
Do you understand that I've had to buy off the rack for 6 months now? Because of this shit.
I have to hide half of this gorgeous face below this mask, but I'm doing it for you.
I've let my hair grow slightly.
I only bring my stylist in twice.
How dare you accuse me? No, if Trump at some point was just like, hey, I think masks are great, everyone should wear it. Here's me wearing my mask. Then, and not the one that is being sold on Amazon that looks like a swastika, like a real honest to God mask. I feel like a lot of people would have that, like, we're all in this together moment. And we, it might actually propel him to some sort of like, see, he can be a good person if he tries, but like,
no,
he's not interested in doing it because it admits that he was wrong or that he didn't, it's not like he can go into the press briefing tomorrow and just be like, I just talked to Fauci. Cases are way up. Nobody told me. Let's get on this. Like,
so wait, masks can stop this thing? All right, I'm strapping up a mask from here on out.
It's like when Kemp learned that people were asymptomatic people could spread it, and just like, I just learned that cases are way up. Should we do something about it? Yeah, dummy, let's do something about it.
And before we move on, I just want to say we got another viewer coming in from Sonora, Mexico. Welcome from Sonora, Mexico.
Buenas noches.
Look at that with the Spanish. Hey, look at you. All
Been
right.
working on it with Roberto.
So I do want to say we haven't had a story in a while, but I do want to take just a quick trip down to the Baltimore corner.
Where you get the straight dope.
And we don't like to go back unless it's a big story. So clearly, this is going to be a national story.
Yeah, it's been on national news here recently.
So clearly what the story we're talking about is the Gun Trace Task Force stole drugs, sold drugs,
planted guns.
There's
evidence.
An entire investigation about it, and that is not the story that got national attention. They blamed the burning of a CVS on a riot, which may or may not have been caused by them going and getting the drugs that were stolen out of the CVS.
Well, one day we'll get into the many exploits of the GTTF.
Yes, but that ain't why.
That's not this story. That's not the national story that broke loose. It's
yes.
not, or it's not about the spy plane not solving a single crime, even though it's been flying for 4 months now.
Murders are on track to be the worst year ever in city of Baltimore.
Yeah, despite
the fact that everybody stayed inside. Yeah, how's that work? Yeah, so a lot of ways that Baltimore could be in the news. This is not it, but. The statue of Christopher Columbus, which was located at the entrance to Little Italy.
Yeah, it's
the traditional entrance,
right by the JFX, like where the highway ends and the water.
It turns
the
into
Falls
President
Way
Street,
begins.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, so it literally where the JFX is used to be a river, and they built the highway over top of it. So there's a part where it turns into President, but initially it would have continued all the way through into where the highway was.
Yes,
where the Falls Way, yeah.
Or where it would have gone through the tunnel underneath, because
it
was originally planned to go all the way through, and then they were like, nope, not doing that. Wait, we have to kick out a white neighborhood? No, let's just end it right here. But it was.
Let's put a housing project there, make it be awful for 40 years, and then buy it away from them, and then make it a white neighborhood. That's how we'll fix it.
Right. Do you think some rich
We'll
white
put
guy who owns a
Perkins
clothing
homes
company?
there for a while and ruin a bunch of lives, and then afterwards, fucking gentrification will happen, and then
Yay.
it'll fix.
Yeah.
So. West Baltimore, in the meantime, here's a couple knives. Just fight amongst yourselves and leave us alone while we're trying to build a city here.
If you're not sure where the statue stood, I'll put it this way. It was carrying distance from the Inner Harbor. And that was clear because on July 4th, as a celebration of our nation's
Independence?
complicated past, let's say, protesters basically made
As King
good.
George would say, Treason Day?
Yes, treason day. Protesters made good on a promise that they had made earlier this year, and they tore down the statue of Christopher Columbus and threw it in the harbor.
Yeah.
Interesting story. I don't know why this is what gets national attention of all the things that could.
I feel like there's, and not to say that Christopher Columbus isn't a horrible person with horrible things in his past, but also I feel like somewhere 100-something names down the list of statues that have fallen so far. I mean, like, there's legitimate, like, awful Confederate people who had statues that were torn down during this time.
Hard in Baltimore, though. You don't get a lot of those in Baltimore. Now,
There
I
were
would
a couple.
suggest,
There were a couple, but I mean, like, some of them have already gone. Pew took a couple of them away.
yes. And
So-
there is a really awful cop statue that is also carrying distance from the Inner Harbor, if you ask me, that could come down. Now, Corey doesn't share that my sentiment. I don't want to celebrate cops in any way, so,
So Dorsey got into that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
Ryan, I'm on your side on this thing.
there's a memorial to 2 officers who died in the line of duty, and there's a little placard, I guess, there in the middle that makes it seem like this is a statue for the FOP, but
Yes.
it's really a statue that was paid for by the families of the 2 fallen officers, and
For all fallen officers.
right, and then it's maintained by the FOP. So that's the basic deal there. But apparently Dorsey was saying that it was a statue for the FOP, and why is that still standing? And the complicated where this statue came from is a little bit of the.
All I'm gonna say is we're tearing down Confederate statues because they
I feel like
participated.
if we're going to this point where we're saying statues have to, and believe me, I don't give a shit what statue you tear down for who and at what point. I don't give a shit.
What if it
I've
was
never
JP2 from the garden at the Basilica?
I've never fucking looked at a statue and went like, this must stand. Like
Okay.
literally any one of them can go. It means nothing to me. I mean, if you told me that, like, the girl who was facing down the bowl at Wall Street was gone, then I'd be a little bit upset. Like,
They're moving her.
are they moving her?
Yeah.
I thought they were moving her to a permanent place, though.
Yeah,
like,
they are.
right
They're
in
moving
there.
her a couple blocks away to a permanent spot.
Oh, okay.
She won't be facing down the bull anymore.
Well,
Because the designer of the bull said, like, hey, so this kind of changes the meaning of my
this
art.
fucks up my thing.
And his thing wasn't about greed is good.
Yeah.
It was basically a, like,
Bears and bull. It's there's like a mythical respect for the bear bull market on Wall
Yes.
Street. Like, if you celebrate too much for your wins, you're going to hurt just as hard.
and it was a lot of, like, good times will come and good times will go. Just
Be respectful of what a time you're in.
yes, yeah. And also, it's a golden calf, which I
Yeah.
just like the irony of, even without the girl there. Like,
Yeah.
we built a golden calf on Wall Street. Sure, okay. And she should be moved to some place where I would worry about the being torn down because of a symbolism.
I mean, like, if you told me the Statue of Liberty was torn down, I would be a little bit upset about that one. I mean, but honest to God, I don't really.
No,
You bastards! You blew it up. I've never looked at a statue and went like, no matter what happens, this has got to stand here forever. Like, for the most part, I feel like statues are kind of like weird monuments to legacies. Like, because, like, how do you explain a statue? Like, you walk down the Inner Harbor and you see Schaefer there. It's just like, who's that guy? It's like you could tell a story about him, but it's not the same as if you read a book about Schaefer or, like,
It's also a bit of a creepy statue.
did internet research or whatever you needed to do to get to who he was. It's not the same as like a offhand story, you know?
Oh, my only point about the FOP statue, which isn't an FOP statue, is, we're tearing down Confederate statues because they were participating in an inherently racist institution. Mm-hmm. Well, cops are participating in an inherently racist institution, so tear down that statue too. Let's do it. And maybe the Schaefer statue while we're at it. He called the East Shore shithouse, and fuck him. So,
I feel like this is the problem. Like, there are clear...
Arguably, it is a shithouse. I'll just say, it does smell like shit a lot. So.
I mean, like... This is the real problem with the statues and all this conversation. Like, you can make a reasonable argument for how almost anybody has some checkered area of their past, which makes the statue problematic. Yeah. Like, especially if you're talking about people who lived a long time ago where rules of acceptable behavior were different.
Yeah.
Like, don't get it wrong. Like, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, when the Civil War started, all throughout that time, between those 2 points, there were contingents of Americans who thought slavery was wrong, and there were contingents of Americans who didn't think it was wrong. You are allowed to be judged in history based off of whether or not you thought it was wrong when there were people who thought it, as long as it wasn't the overwhelming... if everyone had slaves and not one person said anything about it, I don't feel like it's right to, there's no going back to ancient Egypt and saying
like, slavery's wrong.
Yeah, like these were slaveholders. It's like, yeah, that's how this system worked. Yeah. There was nobody saying we shouldn't have slaves at that point.
But for me, it's all about
except
context.
For Moses.
There's a statue of Jefferson at the Museum of Slavery or it's some sort of museum.
Yeah.
But it's indoors and there is a huge plaque next to it that gives context. And it's like, we are honoring him in a way, but it's not a slavery museum because maybe it's in Boston, something about the founding fathers. Anyway, but there's a huge plaque that's just like, giving context, great man, did many good things, helped found our country, also owned people. This is not okay. And we need to give the historical context that in Virginia, perhaps it's been argued he only kept slaves because that's what you did.
Well, so there was like a little tiny thing about Teddy Roosevelt at one point.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, he said problematically racist things. And it's like, all the things that I had seen him say, and maybe I'm missing something. And if I am, please inform me. But like, all of them seem to be relatively of the time, which is not to say that he was, not racist compared to today, but...
Which he probably was.
At that time.
Yeah.
He probably wasn't considered racist. And I'm not saying that that's a excuse for everything, but like I feel like we need to have a conversation about like degrees here because, Jefferson is a more problematic figure, which has...
Because he owned people?
Yeah, because he owned people. And, Columbus has a complicated history because of the raping and pillaging of people once he arrived in the place that he mistakenly landed.
P.S. Not mentioned in the show that we just watched. Relatively sure Hamilton owned slaves too. Didn't really mention it, but just because he was in Boston and New York doesn't mean he didn't own people.
Yeah,
that was wealth. That's how you gained wealth. Not excusable, but let's just give it context. Yes, these guys had slaves. That is not okay.
Right.
We can put that aside. Not aside. We can have it in context with what other good stuff they did. When the time came, Robert E. Lee said, I'm going to go home to Virginia and defend this institution. Because when the Civil War started, Robert E. Lee was a general in the Union Army, gave up his commission in the Union Army to go home. That's a different choice, in my mind. It's
kind of interesting. I was just thinking about this. Like we have all these conversations about... Basically, so like masks, should we wear masks? Should we not wear masks? And it's not about it should be about coronavirus, but it's become more about whether or not you're wearing a mask,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a separate issue. And like all the people who are just like this, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. It's like, it's the same way that it's about coronavirus. We're just not talking about it. It's more about what led to it was the fighting over, you're a tyrannical government and you're not letting us do what you want. Yeah, but you have slaves, and it's like, we have other things too that you're always bitching at us about. But at the end of the day, the whole thing was about slavery, but it was the conversation moved away from it, like as far as like a historical talking point. For whatever reason, we couldn't it seemed like they weren't willing to tell us that it was pretty much all about slavery and the offshoots that led to it. You know what I mean?
The spring of 74, Jefferson was working on a document which included the words "all men are created equal."
Yes.
While he owned people, and then less than a decade later, also helped pen the words "a slave is worth 3/5 of a person."
Yeah.
As a compromise, the Virginia Compromise. No, wait, Connecticut Compromise. But as part of the compromise of like, well, we can't count them as people because that makes them people. But we don't want to not count them because that's most of the people we got.
Yeah.
So how are we going to figure that out? So all men are created equal, but not all men.
But these are 60% of people.
Yeah, so yes. And contextually, we need to go into that and be able to say, we wouldn't be here unless they did what they did. And there was a lot of bravery in the fact that, by the way, the people you love, the people you look up to as patriots were cop-killing criminals. Like, that's what they were.
Yeah.
Crispus Attucks, the first man to die in the United States, in the American Revolution, was a black man. We don't hear about that, by the way. That's not a story you're going to hear a lot. But it's all very complicated and convoluted because it's human. And it's really easy to get into these conversations about like, oh, it was about wealth, not slavery. Slavery was wealth. I don't want to wear a mask. It's not about coronavirus. It is.
Think honestly, other than from Carter on, I feel like we can't have a conversation about modern day American presidents who don't have some sort of complicated history that we have to explain in some way. You know, like even if at the time nothing seemed wrong about it, there is at some point we're going to have a conversation about Obama where we're just like, yes, he was good and we liked him and he was a nice person and
lots of drones though. Lots of
drones. There was a lot of unnecessary
body count real high.
Yeah, and like
real high.
We didn't think it was going to come from him, and it got even worse under him. So like, it's like one of those things. Like, it's not like I hate Obama because he did this thing. I'm very disappointed in Obama because he did this thing. It complicates the legacy,
One of the things I learned from the RFK documentary we're watching, he was on the committee for un-American activities, like led the questioning on that committee. And now that puts in perspective the guy that I think of from 68, who was like so progressive and poor people and people of color, and I can be your hero. But you were like snuffing out commies in Hollywood, where commie really just meant like gay or, you aren't the writer of this. That black guy wrote this and you're putting it under your name and we know, and we need you to come clean about that. Like, that's RFK too. It's real complicated.
Yeah.
JFK cheated on his wife. A lot.
Yeah.
Also got us to the moon. Human beings are complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it works. And
like, just listening back at old episodes trying to find my Kanye West predictions. Like, there are times where I've said things that I'm sure I would like to have another crack at throughout the course of this podcast.
A lot of hot takes.
But I mean, like, I don't ever think at any point I said something so wrong that I should be ashamed of myself. But certainly something that, like, if it was said today on this episode of the podcast as opposed to 4 years ago, it doesn't land the same, Like,
I do think somewhere early in year 2, we did have hashtag socially acceptable racism, socially acceptable sexism. So
those were all like it
was tongue in cheek.
Yeah, and they were what do you call it? Like puns mostly.
Yes,
it was just like a punny phrase that sounded like it could have been. If it wasn't under the context of the conversation we were having, it sounded bad,
Also, I'm really happy that given everything happening in the world, I've been able to bring back racist.
That's the one that I hate. People are just gonna go looking through those moments.
Got to go back to like the early hundreds to find that discussion. But yeah, so we've been doing this a long time, folks. Well,
you know where you can find all of them?
Where is that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's the number again?
443-219-7595. I didn't have a video today because the building was doing work and the fire alarm was going off constantly. So not great video making conditions, but I'll have a new one out this Thursday. Not entirely sure what it'll be, but tune in for the surprise. So there we go.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't ready for that. That was really short. And of course, you can find the podcast at O The Anthem everywhere you might want to look for it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Basically, as I said in the opening, we go live everywhere that is, hey, you can go live here /O The Anthem. And you can find us at, hey, social media /O The Anthem. So that's an easy way to find everything that we're doing. Let me clear this up. Oh, man, I was not prepared. And, of course, you can find me and all the stuff I'm doing at Robert and Cheek on all your social networks. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Branded everywhere. Parlay? Parlor.
Yeah.
I've already forgotten the name of it. But you can find me on there. Come join me, especially if you're leftist, because it's me. That's it. I'm representing all the leftists right now. So maybe I'll become an influencer. That'd be great. I do have videos out because, as they like to call me, old reliable, twice a week, no matter what. Defending Jacob from last Thursday is out. Then the morning show from Sunday. This Thursday, a little delayed because I like to have my stuff done in advance. Therefore, I release on a schedule. The Five Bloods will be coming out this Thursday.
Nice.
And next Sunday, King of Staten Island. So I'm looking forward to all of those. Check out the videos. Everything's at youtube.com/Rob Cheek. The only thing that's not Robert N. Cheek. And I've been doing a lot of great work on the website. So robertncheek.com, where you can find links to everything, like the books that are available on Amazon.
Firehouse Books.
Thank you, sir. And everything else. So make sure you just go there first, because I got everything there.
All right. Well, I think we done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good.
Complicated.
It's complicated. I only said guillotines once.
Yeah.
That's a surprise. So, or maybe twice. Anyway, you've been listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
All right. So let's go celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day and get drunk.
Is that how Bobby Bonilla celebrates, you think?
Every year.
Or just every day of every year?
Run champagne on July 1st.
1.2 million a year. I think I would just get drunk all the time.